right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning and Development Committee meeting for Monday, September 17th, 2018. First item on the agenda, and we do have a quorum present. First item is approval of the regular meeting minutes from August 13th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve? A second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Meeting minutes are approved. And first item for consideration is P1, which is an appeal to the Planning and Development Committee of Design and Project Review Committee's decision denying a variance for a commercial variable message sign, a CVMS as it's referred to, for the Citgo station at 1925 Green Bay Road. The Planning and Development Committee is deciding whether or not to hear the variance appeal, and if granted, will set a hearing for the appeal. The hearing shall be confined to a review of the design and project review decision and written objections submitted by the appellant property owner. No verbal presentation shall be heard except by invitation to the committee. The Planning and Development Committee shall either approve with conditions, deny the application, or refer it back to CDAPR for further proceedings. Is there a motion to, is there a motion? Can we get a motion so we can discuss it?
I move.
Okay, all right. Oh, and so this is whether to hear the variance appeal. So
I
that's-
move to deny the appeal.
So you're moving to not hear the appeal?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so there's a motion regarding the pending matter. Do we have the applicant here? I think we do somewhere. Okay, would you like to speak? Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So we are proposing to have an electronic message sign for display of advertising. Currently, we have invested in this project significant amount of funds to bring a business to Evanston that offers something that it did not offer before. There's a hardship to properly display any kind of signage at the outside of the building because the canopy, which is the roof over the gasoline dispensers, extends too close to the building, and if you install any signage on the building, it is not visible to the outside public. We are proposing for an aesthetically good-looking electronic message board which will be safe to display any sort of message. There was a concern by the DAPR Committee of apprehension of electronic signs by public, to which we say that the sign that displays the gas pricing right now has existed for years on the property, and that is in electronic format. We have also, we are proposing and have also proposed to limit the number of times the message can change on that message board if safety is of concern, that, it shouldn't be flashing or anything of that sort. And last but not least, there are some other businesses already using electronic message boards in the city of Evanston. That includes McDonald's and another Marathon gas station on Howard Street. So that's all I have to say.
So how long have you owned this business?
We have owned this for the last 6 months.
Okay. Am I correct that there's been some remodeling? It looked like there was a lot of remodeling inside?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Alderman Simmons, you had some questions?
No questions. This form of lighting is, I understand that there are 2 locations that have it existing. I would like to see it banned citywide. It doesn't complement our neighborhoods, and in fact, that stretch of Green Bay Road, don't know where to start, but even the billboards there do not complement that stretch. It's nowhere else in the ward. Once you get outside of the West End and continue up north, you see no signage like that. So I'm aware that there are lighted signs for the gas price, but this signage would allow you to have a scrolling sales and specials and promotions, and it's not a aesthetic that I can support.
Yeah, I mean, we are saying that, we can limit the number of times we can even change the message, so it will not be scrolling. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, but once installed, the next user, if we did allow this, could have the option to, possibly have more signs, more promotions, and it's just not something that I can support. So I'm excited that you have invested in the community and that you plan to do some renovations inside of the gas station, but this lighting option is not one that I'll be supporting. So I'm going to move that we deny hearing the appeal.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I did have a couple of questions, additional questions myself. With regard to the sign, so it's your Citgo station, that's like a franchise, is that correct? Similar to
Correct,
that? Okay.
yes.
Do they give you a certain menu of sign options to choose from? Is that how that works?
Yes,
Okay.
they're nationally approved for, in whole United States, I would say.
Okay. So the existing sign, and like I said, I've noticed that you've done a lot of work to the store to fix up the store, so that's very much appreciated, and I'm sure that's at a significant cost. But the sign, obviously, as you're aware, it doesn't look great, right? Which is probably why you want to make some changes.
The present sign doesn't look great?
Sign. Yeah, the base of it it's got the wood that's kind of broken up, and there's some broken concrete and things like that around the base, and it's got the big numbers and.
No, we have updated the signage also that existed with the new sign. So the gas display sign is a brand new sign right now.
Okay, so you're just adding.
Adding the electronic, we are asking to add the electronic message below it, already
Right.
existing electronic sign.
I guess what I'm suggesting is that maybe the base that it sits on. It would be nice if that was cleaned up too. You know what I mean?
It has been.
Okay. I don't remember seeing. I remember seeing the inside of the store, but I don't remember seeing the sign. I'm looking at a picture, so maybe it's an old picture. I apologize. So if that's been done, I apologize for that.
So we have included older pictures of the sign and the new
Okay.
pictures in the
Okay.
Dapper application.
Okay. And when I'd been to I occasionally go to your gas station and get gas, so I noticed the store.
I appreciate
but I
that.
didn't push the sign. All right. So. Yeah, so I think that I would support hearing the appeal just to get more information. That's my inclination, but I don't know that you're going to get that overall support from the committee. So I guess I'll just encourage you to, kind of keep working towards coming up with a solution that is going to be more passable. Alderman Simmons has a good point. There are lots of kinds of signs that are around town that the technology's older. It's maybe not appealing. Doesn't have a good street feel to it. And there might be other options that are going to be more attractive and more effective for your business. So it'll make the business look nicer and be more appealing to the customers that are kind of going by and going around the corner. Okay, so there's no more lights. So all those in favor in not hearing the appeal, say aye.
Aye.
And all those who think we should hear the appeal, aye. Okay, so the committee's decided not to hear the appeal, so that won't proceed any further. And you can talk to the staff about, your next steps on coming up with a different solution. Okay?
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Same people that you've been working with. Okay, thank you. And then I suggest, working with the alderman too, for your ward, just to kind of, get some input as you go along with that process.
Okay, thank
Stay
you.
involved. Thank you. All right. So I don't get tired of reading. Alderman Ravel, could you read P2?
So the Housing and Homelessness Commission and staff recommend City Council approval of a not-to-exceed $70,000 contract with Metropolitan Tenants Organization and Lawyers Committee for Better Housing for landlord-tenant services. The funding source is the city's Affordable Housing Fund, which has a current uncommitted cash balance of approximately $600,000. So this is for action.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
All right. Do we have a staff report on it? We don't necessarily need one. Okay. We do have two speakers then signed up. Ms. Esther?
Good evening. I've been following this and not quite sure of exactly what is the service that will be provided to the people in the community. I know the Metropolitan Tenant Organization. I have worked with them in the past, and also know the Better Housing Committee. I'm part of what is called the Affordable Consumer Advocacy Group, which is a subgroup of Joining Forces. That organization did not have a description as to what this is and what this will do. So what will this do for the people that consume affordable housing, or the people that are homeless looking for housing? What will this do for them? What will it offer them? So we have, you finna give them money, the organization, there is no question about that, but we don't know what we are buying. And if this is the right service that we need. So that need to be, and as I always says, before you start proving these things, you need to take it out to the community and share it with the people in the community. A consumer buying something, we are buying it blind. This is not what we want. This is what we need to learn. What will this help us? How will this help us in increasing the number of affordable housing here in Evanston? Will this be in terms of legal entity or something that we can go to, or would that help us in other ways? That information wasn't shared with an organization that's here in town that you give funding through Connection for the Homeless. And we don't know. So we go to meetings and we go to things and you tell us to get involved, to get one. But if you don't tell us what we're getting involved with, we can't do nothing but keep asking. And that's kind of getting to be redundant. So if you could get the information to Ms. Lowenbach so she can share it with her group, and I'll assure you that we will be sharing it with the people that we come in contact with in the community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we do have staff here, so I know that they're listening, and we'll have them step up and give you a little bit more information. This isn't really an affordable housing program per se, so they'll cover that more specifically. Alderman Simmons, did you have a... no, we have one more. Ms. Price. Okay. Dorian Price, please.
Betty covered everything, and I just want to, I'm part of the same group, and we work very hard to try and have something from the time we get information that requires sometimes a lot of work on our part to work as a group and get things out to help. We need advance warning, just like you guys need advance warning, and so it would be very helpful for the groups that are trying to help the city, and the information we have isn't necessarily the information you have, as you know, when you do work with us. And so I'd like to reiterate what Betty said and what Sue represents in terms of an incredible resource that you overlook when you don't give us a heads up, so we can see what experts or what opinions that we can add to the conversation. So it's not to stall, it's to actually make things better. And as community members and consumers of it, and a lot more people are going to be in the same boat that a lot of people didn't foresee, and that is this affordable housing, which is a great initiative. And we just want to make sure it keeps going in the right direction and we can offer some guidance from the people who actually need it. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have somebody named Scott, and I can't make out the last name. It almost looks like Dempster, but is that person here? I just want to make sure if this was something you wanted to speak to, you could. No? All right. Alderman Simmons.
Is this the agency that replaced the work of Open Communities? Right. So is someone here from this organization? Could you?
Ms. Flex, why don't you introduce them?
Couple questions, though, is if we hold this, would it interrupt services, because this is an area that we had some room for improvement, and particularly like landlord-tenant rights and some other concerns that we weren't really meeting the needs of the residents. So I wouldn't want to do anything to keep our residents from getting the service that they need in this area, but maybe we could have done more to inform the community on the services that would be provided from this agency.
Alderman Ruth Simmons and members of the Planning and Development Committee, Sarah Flax, Housing and Grants Administrator. This has gone through a fairly public process. We issued a request for applications, and it was discussed at, I forget which of the council meetings where we were talking about housing, where we said Open Communities was no longer providing these services, so that we were seeking a new source of these resources for our residents. MTO and the Lawyers Committee for Better Housing responded to our request for application, and very thorough. It went through the Housing and Homelessness Commission, which is a public meeting, and I believe Sue Lobach was actually at that meeting, so I'm a little bit surprised that there's this lack of information about it. But we have had landlord-tenant services for since 2012, when the city, for many, many years, the city actually had a staff do landlord-tenant type services, but during many of the layoffs and changes, it was decided to outsource. And actually, from a staff standpoint, I actually think that's a better process than actually having the city do that, because you can get a level of expertise and knowledge that you're not going to necessarily get with an individual staffer who tries to do that full time. Open Communities is no longer providing these services. In fact, I met with Kelly Kleiman, their interim executive director, who said that they have reduced services to doing only fair housing and housing counseling, working through Housing Action Illinois. So they didn't even respond to the RFP. MTO and LCBH have over 30 years of experience, both of them working in this field. They have been doing these same services for Chicago and for part of suburban Cook County in the South for a number of years. What they strive to work together to do is reinforce positive relations with landlords and tenants and intervene and get information out early so that people aren't getting to the point where the problems get to the extent where they sometimes do. The whole goal of this sort of program is to, by maintaining compliance with our landlord-tenant ordinance, to reduce evictions and unfair treatment of tenants, but also to provide landlord resources, because it isn't always one-sided. There's no one part of the equation that's always the one in the right or in the wrong. It basically is providing education to people who have questions about their rights and responsibilities, both landlords and tenants, so that they can follow up and do the appropriate follow-up for whatever their need is. One of the things that MTO and LCBH together provide that we didn't have from Open Communities is a depth of service where with their relationship in Chicago, what they do is you can provide, sometimes tenants don't have the capacity, for example, to follow up on things. In some cases, you have people who don't speak the language well. Both organizations have Spanish-speaking staff, and they just don't know the system well enough to even write a letter to send to a landlord to get their needs taken care of. It's this sort of work that we've successfully had done in Evanston for many, many years that has reduced our percentage of evictions compared to, I think, Cook County as a whole, and actually compared to in the United States as a whole. But I'll stop talking and let you ask any specific questions of either John Bartlett, who is the Executive Director of MTO, and Mark Schwartz, who is the Executive Director of LCBH. Okay?
Thank Do we have any specific questions?
No.
Okay.
Looking forward to you serving the residents.
MTO is our interim provider of these services, so they are working right now, and it's going smoothly.
Great, thank you. Okay, all those in favor of, how do I term it, of approving this not to exceed $70,000 contract with Metropolitan Tenants Organization and Lawyers Committee for Better Housing? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that will go to council tonight. Thank you. Sure, and it will be at council too. Do you want to bring it up at the council so you can have the whole group hear it? Okay.
Because I'm not knocking it, it should be, because information that you just gave us, and although Sarah said, well, Sue was at the meeting and everything, and you talking about, well, we put out an RFQ and all of that, you have to look at the people that you're talking to and the language and the letters that you use. Do the people understand what is going on? And if she happened to miss one meeting, then she is way behind. That is not to defend her or what, but since they are here in the community doing the work that Open Community is doing, that message is not out there to the resident to say, if you have a landlord tenant and you call Open Community, because people is still calling Open Community. They don't know to call the MPTO people.
Okay.
So that message wasn't put out there to them. That's what I'm talking about.
I see. All right. So we'll have to work harder to make sure that everybody knows who the provider is now, since Open Communities is no longer doing that service. Alderman Simmons?
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, very good. Item P3, Alderman Suffredin, could you read P3 for us?
Item P3 is Ordinance 41018, amending City Code Section 6-16, Table 16B, the schedule of minimum off-street parking requirements, and this is for introduction.
Second.
Was that a motion, Alderman Suffredin?
Yes.
Thank you. So this is for introduction tonight. I don't think we have an applicant here, do we? Okay. Any staff report? All right, I think the materials are fairly self-explanatory. Any discussion? Okay. All of those in favor of introducing the item, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, that will be introduced at council tonight. Item P4, Alderman Simmons, could you read that for us?
Sure. P4, the Plan Commission and staff recommend approval of Ordinance 105-018, authorizing zoning ordinance text amendments to alcohol-producing uses that include allowing brew pubs as a special use in the mixed-use employment district. This is for introduction.
Okay, and is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? All right. Is there an applicant or a report? All right, again, I think the materials are self-explanatory. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that will be introduced at council tonight. Item P5, Ordinance 108-018, special use permit and major variations for a banquet hall and a brew pub, Double Clutch Brewing Company at 2119-2, through 2125 Ashland Avenue. The Zoning Board of Appeals and staff are recommending approval of the ordinance authorizing special uses for a banquet hall and brew pub and major zoning variations for a 0-foot front yard setback where 10 feet is ordinarily required. A 0-foot interior side yard setback where 5 feet is required, and a 0 rear yard setback where 5 feet is required. And to eliminate one required short loading dock. This is for an introduction. I move introduction.
Second.
Okay. Alderman Simmons.
Thank you. This business purchased the property some time ago and came into the community, including attending and presenting at community meetings, their vision and their proposed use for the building. They're coming with years of experience in successfully operating restaurants in other communities, and they have followed up with introductions to community stakeholders to make sure that they are coming in as a good neighbor. I hope that we can invite them and this business into the community. It will provide an event space like no other that we have in the ward, and I'm believing that it'll be really vibrant and like no other in the whole city of Evanston. So with that, there wasn't much response at the community meetings in terms of pushback. And I would like to know, and I'm not sure where this is in the process, but my one concern is the rendering that I saw in the signage. So I don't know if that is a part of this process. I want to be clear that the signage that I saw does not complement the neighborhood. So is that something that we're still working on?
Signage is a separate permit.
Okay, I just want to be on record as saying that. And that's all. Thank you.
We do have several speakers signed up, and tricky last name. So Mike, and it's hard to read. Why don't you just step up and tell me how to say it? Okay. Hi.
Yes, Chikazian. We actually did not. There's three of us on there that signed up. I thought that we were supposed to actually. We didn't mean to. We don't need to speak.
You don't need to speak. Okay.
We don't
great.
need to speak.
Okay. So Mike, Scott, and is it Luke?
Luke. Yes.
Okay. So I thank you for that. And any further comments, questions, or discussion? All right. This is for introduction. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The matter will be introduced at council. Item P6. Alderman Nguyen, could you read that for us?
Yes, the Zoning Board of Appeals and city staff.
I'm sorry. Okay. Hold on. Ms. Esther? Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. Esther, I checked you off because I saw you in P2. So go ahead. P5, you are signed up. And Doreen Price, are you also speaking on P5? Okay.
The group did come to the community. We thought they was coming back. So if there was a second meeting with the stakeholders right around where they met, that's fine. I wasn't at those meetings, didn't hear about them, but they have two crucial stakeholders, which are religious units. One is the Jehovah's Witness, and then you have the Simpson First Church of God. So that they have programs, service, and stuff, which when they do impact parking and stuff. So we was concerned, and we asked, did they talk to the church to see how that's going to affect their parking when they plan to have events and things? Are they going to be checking with the church service to make sure that there is no conflict, that you don't schedule, I got a wedding, you got a wedding, wait a minute, all of you cannot park here. So we wanted to know, and we asked those questions, and we thought that they were coming back to the larger community to talk about it. Still have a problem with that, them having that there in the Brewer, and because that is kind of an avenue where the children from Haven School that live in the community come that way and stuff. And that really is something that few of the community people think that that's just a business that should not be there. But it's what it is. But we still are concerned about the parking, especially for the two churches, to make sure that their service and things are not interrupted with parking in their events, because they are already current stakeholders and they should not be put out with new people coming in. So parking is an issue in Evanston, and that's something that needs to be monitored very closely.
All right, thank you for that. And as I'm sure you heard, it is for introduction, so there's a little bit of time between now and the date that it's heard for action to work out any of those details you have concerns on. Yes, Alderman Sims.
First priority over there were stakeholders, and that included the two churches in question. And as I mentioned, they did follow up, and those churches have their own parking lots. And I know for a fact that the largest church will not be sharing their parking lot. They made that clear. We also just worked to expand parking and a loading zone for the church as well. So parking will not be disturbed. The business also has their own parking lot as well. So just wanted to add that those meetings did happen. They weren't public community meetings, but they have happened.
Thank you. Alderman Nguyen, P6.
Thank you.
Item P6, the Zoning Board of Appeals and City Staff recommend adoption of Ordinance 103-018, granting a special use approval for a Type 2 restaurant, Backlot Coffee, in the B1A Business District and the OCSE Central Street Overlay District. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards of a special use for this district. And in addition, Alderman Ravel recommends that we suspend the rules this evening for both introduction and action. I move approval.
All right, very good. We do have the materials. I do see that the applicant's here. Is there anything you'd like to add to what we have? Okay. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Okay. All those in favor of moving this to council for introduction and action? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so it'll be at the council later this evening for that and at the request for suspension of the rules. This or something else? You're ready to go, aren't you?
Just trying to keep it myself.
Sorry. Item P7, Alderman Fisk.
P7 is Ordinance 104-018, granting a special use and zoning relief to expand a daycare center child at 2200 Main Street. The Zoning Board of Appeals and City Staff recommend adoption of the ordinance granting special use approval to expand a daycare center child. The Infant Welfare Society of Evanston and zoning relief for a one-story addition with a 6.1-foot west interior side yard setback where 15 feet is required at 2200 Main Street in the R2 single-family residential district. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards for a special use for this district. Alderman Braithwaite recommends suspension of the rules for introduction and action at the September 17th, 2018 City Council meeting. It's for introduction and action. I move approval.
Second.
All right, very good. Alderman.
Alderman Wilson, members of the committee, it's coming with recommendations from our zoning board. As the information reads, they're looking to expand their programming. They've met all the requirements, and based on construction timelines and grant funding, respectfully asking to suspend the rules and move it for action this evening.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns, or discussion? All right, very good. All those in favor of introduction and action at council tonight?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. Item P8, this one looks good. Ordinance 102-018, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant, Kilwin's Chocolates, at 1724 Sherman Avenue. The Zoning Board of Appeals and City Staff are recommending adoption of the ordinance granting a special use approval for the Type 2 restaurant, Kilwin's Chocolates, in the D2 district. The applicant has complied with all zoning requirements and meets all of the standards of the special use for the district. This is for introduction, and I move introduction.
Second.
Okay, is the applicant here? Okay, did you bring fudge?
Well, then we're not
I had
suspending
to
the
ask.
rules.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for investing in the community. Any concerns, questions, or discussion? Okay, all in favor of introduction? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it will be at council later this evening for that introduction. Hopefully not too much later. Item P9, Ordinance 106-018, granting a special use for a public utility and major zoning relief for a fence concrete wall at 514 Custer Avenue. The Zoning Board of Appeals and city staff recommend adoption of ordinance 106-018, granting the special use approval for a public utility for the replacement of the existing ComEd equipment with a, quote, DC in a box, end quote, utility equipment, and major zoning relief for a 20-foot tall fence, which is really a concrete wall, for safety and thermal screening of the equipment at 514 Custer. The applicant has complied with all other zoning requirements and meets all of the standards for special use and major variation in the R3 two-family residential district. It is for introduction. And tell us who you are.
I'm Carlo Cavallero. I'm External Affairs Manager for ComEd. I actually believe the Alderman was supporting action tonight as well.
Okay, the Alderman is right behind you. She snuck up behind you. Alderman Fleming is our signed up to speak tonight.
Yes, hello, Alderman Fleming. Yes, I would like to ask that this is for introduction and action. We had a community meeting where ComEd did come and address the concerns of the community, and they did kind of go beyond and above and beyond to beautify the wall as much as you can, a 20-foot wall that does have to be that size for safety regulations. So I do suggest we have action and approval tonight so that they can go ahead and start construction.
Okay, very good. Obviously, utility and infrastructure are priorities in our community, so making sure that they are functional and well protected is important. So I would move that we introduce and suspend the rules for action tonight. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion, questions, or concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll be at the
Thank
council
you.
for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we are towards the end of the agenda. Any additional items for discussion? Any special communications? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, very good. Thank you, everybody. And we will resume the council meeting at approximately 8:30 p.m. Thank you.